I'm Delina Smith, and this is my EDL 856 Module 5, Understanding My Community. So Frontenac USD 249 is a district that is very big on customs and traditions. We're a very small community, so the school is the center of most of the community activities. In this sense, we have a very strong community that rallies around the district to ensure that they are very successful and that they have the opportunities, students and staff as well, to be able to accomplish the different things that they're involved in. Two of the big events that the community hosts every year are homecoming. So in the summer months, they celebrate the heritage of Frontenac, and throughout this weekend adventure, they have things such as arm wrestling at the local bar. They have a street dance and completely shut down the main street in town. Class reunions for any of the 10, 20, 30 year that would fall on that specific year. In addition, it's just a time for all the different people in the community to come together. The different organizations and clubs each host a different aspect of homecoming. And then we have Festa in the fall, and Festa is put on by the Education Foundation, and they use it as an opportunity to gather funds that are used to then support scholarships and grants for students pursuing their college education or for items that the teachers would like to pursue in their classroom. So a great opportunity for, again, the community to come together, but also a great time to raise that money that's put to great use throughout the rest of the year. There is a great deal of parent involvement if it is volunteer time that the school district or teachers are seeking out. Parents are heavily involved and willing to do just about anything, bring just about anything that you could ask for. So very different than my previous school district. But for instance, the Halloween parade, the entire town shuts down during that time and lines the street as the kids parade through town. So very involved community. There is a big sports emphasis, not only on high school athletics, but also at the elementary level. We've got a ton of teams available to our students. We have a lot of parents who get very involved in that and ensure that that program is very successful. This is a community that does have a college expectation for students. This was our first year with a new high school counselor, and some of her ideas embrace that maybe a student can be successful and pursue a 2-year degree or a technical degree beyond high school. And that's been something that's been very difficult for some of the community members to adjust to. This is also a very heavy Catholic town. It is a previous mob town and very heavy in the Italians. And so it's a very largely Catholic community. Most of those individuals that live in this community are financially sound, so that makes a lot of the different things such as the parent involvement. A lot of the homes still have a stay-at-home parent or a parent that is willing to take time off of work to come and participate in different events. However, in the last couple of years, we do have a growing micropopulation, and as part of that, we're seeing an increase in poverty, an increase in the foster population that is moving in and out, as well as the Hispanic population and that ESOL student percentile. So looking at the population of the community, we're roughly 3,500 individuals in a 5 square mile radius. Median age being 43.1. We are largely a white community. However, as I said, there is a Hispanic population that is continuing to grow. And these statistics were actually from 2016, so I would dare to say that that has since increased. And we do have a little under 5%, again, this is a dated statistic, that speak a non-English language. So when we're communicating out with parents and community members, it is important for us to make sure that a Spanish edition of materials is made available. We also have that 1% that is not a U.S. citizen, so we also have to be mindful that some individuals are not willing to comment or complete surveys just for fear of items getting tied back to them and that being found out. Poverty rate is incredibly low at less than 10% for Crawford County. Crawford and Cherokee counties are widely known as being some of the poorest counties in Kansas. So for our district to be so low is a rarity in this area. average family size of 3 people. We have a lot of young families, but we also have a lot of aging couples as well. So we kind of come up with that average of 3. Again, when that comes to items that we're trying to communicate out with the community, we have to make sure that we're showing not only the need for our families who have children involved in the school system or will have children involved, but we're also having to reach those individuals that are here and at retirement age or beyond. And median income, 53,000, and we have roughly 1,300 different households within the community. As far as communication channels, we do not have any newspapers in Frontenac, so we have to rely on things such as social media. And since we don't have a hometown newspaper, we have had an individual who has stepped up, and they are sponsoring a social media page on Facebook called Hello Frontenac, and that is being utilized similarly to what a community newspaper would typically play. So it has everything from job opportunities that are available in the area, housing opportunities, as well as sharing photos and information from various community events, birthdays, anniversaries. So really truly anything that you would find in a newspaper is featured on this Facebook page. We do have neighboring towns that have have newspapers. So items that we want to make sure that everyone sees, we are conscientious to be sure and use those channels as well, because we do have a lot of individuals in this community that will subscribe to the neighboring town's newspaper. Again, that Spanish-speaking population, we do want to make sure that those materials are made available in multiple languages. And then a lot of the communication will actually flow through the school district, especially during the school year. So even if it's not related to school at all, the community understands that that's the best way to reach the majority of the families within the community. So when we look at the different community groups, we have those that serve on the various boards, such as the Board of Education, the Education Foundation, the Youth League. Those individuals are typically very intertwined. You'll have a family member, whether it be a spouse or a child, on one and the opposite on another. So it tends to be the same roughly group of 15 that really tend to hold the majority of the positions within the community. There's also a strong group of community business owners that are very well-to-do, and they have a great deal of influence on those people who serve on those various boards. Additionally, we have the group of Frontenac alumni, those that were born and raised here in town, and they are very united and rooted in ensuring that various traditions do not get pushed out of the school and out of the community. You also have the group of outsiders that have moved in, and as somebody who is not from Frontenac originally, there very much is a separation. You kind of have to learn the language, so to say. And then finally, we do have an individual who actually has to be highly involved in the different boards. They own a trailer park which houses roughly, I believe at last count it was roughly 50 trailers, with a lot of Hispanic individuals, as well as a lot of those families that are meeting that poverty mark. So that creates a whole little sub-community within the town itself. Looking at the leadership, as I said, those community members that have the businesses are a very tight-knit group, and they have a great deal of influence on the individuals who have elected positions. And we also have those individuals that own the housing, and so they have a great deal of pull. For instance, the one who owns the trailer park, they have created this community, by the standards to which they have set for their housing. Additionally, we do have the superintendent, which is one of those respected positions in the community, and especially considering how limited those official positions are. And then the church is also at the heart of the community. So the influence of the father at the Catholic Church goes a long ways within this community. So looking at those characteristics of those individuals, we are very um, conscientious of how things will affect the status of the community, how it's viewed by others. Frontenac is a very elite school. When we look at that post-secondary success, these are kiddos who go on to four-year universities, and they make something of themselves. They have expectations for what they are to do after high school. So very conscientious of how decisions would affect that view from outsiders. Monetary consequences, such as, is it going to grow the economy? Right now, we have so many businesses in neighboring communities. We're looking at ways to keep money inside Frontenac and to bring money back to our school and to our community, rather than having to reach out to other towns who then profit from the business that we're doing inside of them. And then maintaining those traditions. Since it is such a tight-knit community, it's very important to these leaders to ensure that they honor those sacred cows and that they continue to move forward with those traditions that have always been there. And then we have those key community leaders who they really truly do influence the others, and there very much is a community that looks to them, and whatever their opinion is or their stance is highly regarded, and you pick one side or the other on most issues in this community. Looking at the economics of Frontenac, we have roughly 72% that are homeowners, so a fairly small rental population. And again, the majority of those are in the trailer park. Average property value is just a little over $120,000. The town itself actually has 1,500 workers, mainly in the areas of manufacturing, healthcare and social assistance, retail trade. We are a very traditional community, so it is not surprising that males typically make 1.4 times higher than the average female salary. And a lot of our community members, as I said, commute to neighboring communities, so the average commute is roughly 15 miles. Politics of the city, very much city government versus school board. It's the same political structure. It is very much viewed the same and respected with the same level of poise, just because those are the individuals that are well established in the community. And as I stated before, again, there's a lot of family connections between the various boards and elected positions. Property taxes in the area, roughly $800 to $1,500, which is fairly typical for Crawford County. We do receive state aid for numerous things. However, it's limited. When we look at other districts in our area, what we get in comparison to those other districts is quite small, and that's due to that free and reduced population being so much smaller than other districts in this area. And we also do have the opportunities through things such as the Education Foundation. They come in and will fund items where other school districts may have to hunt for that money elsewhere. For instance, when we went to one-to-one with our students, we had a private donor that stepped in and wanted to push that through and make it a one-year step, so that individual paid for devices for K-12. So very blessed in that area, but at the same time, when we do have to depend on state funding for different things, it sometimes is a little tricky to understand where we can get the most for our dollars. So there are some known social tensions within the community. First of all, you've got the natural Frontenacers who born and raised here in the community, and then you've got those non-natives who have moved in. So when it comes to a lot of issues, there is the way that we've always done things, and then there's the way that we could do things. And you'll see the natives and the non-natives split pretty clearly on those issues. We also have a growing Hispanic population. Those are fairly contained communities within the community. And I think that creates a lot of social tension. In addition, we've seen the Hispanic population grow as the poverty and the SPED population have also grown. Now, comparing those statistics and overlapping them, there is not a great deal of overlap between the Hispanic, the poverty, and the SPED populations that have been growing. However, I think it's kind of an assumed that culture is what has brought the change in the community makeup. So that creates a great deal of tension. If our town members have the desire to seek out extra information, they do have opportunities, whether it be through the Chamber of Commerce or it is a small town, so there's a lot of intertwined family knows, best friends, those kind of things. So it's fairly easy to find out information in this town. The board minutes, do provide that update of what's going on in the school district, and even though they're not incredibly detailed, we do have questions that arise from them, so we know that our community members are looking for those and involved in keeping up to date on what's going on in the school. And then we do have a staff and even a student and a community directory, so a lot of times if there's an issue or a question, town members will actually just reach out and connect with that person, whether it be face-to-face or over the phone, to ask their questions and get clarity. Power structures within the community, we of course have the business owners. They probably have the most power because they've got the money. So where the financial support goes, there everyone else tends to follow. Additionally, we've got those cliques. For the most part, those are going to be your elected officials, kind of comes back to those boards, and then those natives that have been here their entire life, they stick together to ensure that the culture and their traditions are not taken away from the community. And then finally, we've got those housing owners who they are really right now controlling the makeup of the community. Those homeowners are staying pretty consistent, but at the same time, that rental population are the ones that are changing. And so right now you've got some pushback from the Board of Education and from administrators to really kind of set the bar for what we're going to allow to ensure a certain standard of living. And then you've got those housing owners that really do have quite a bit of power as they have the opportunity to create what that sub-community is within the town. Looking at the multicultural issues, we do have a growing Hispanic culture, which I feel like we're addressing at the surface level, if that, but we're definitely not diving in and embracing this culture. And as it grows, I feel like that's a step that we're going to have to take. For instance, our ESOL students, we did not have a certified teacher working with those students, but the individual who has previously done it actually turned in his resignation. I want to say it was April, and we still have not rehired for that position. So that makes me a little nervous about what the direction is for that group of students for next year. As I previously stated, we do have students who have parents who communicate in a language outside of English, so that liaison between the students and their parents, or the school, and the parents, becomes incredibly necessary. So I think our district's going to really have to stop and analyze how we're addressing the Hispanic culture within our community. And on the flip side of that, we are a very strong Italian community, and we greatly embrace the Italian culture of this community. So we understand the importance of culture and how to embrace it. We just are very hesitant to expand that to embrace other cultures. Looking at the power structure, board members are heavily influenced by those business owners, those cliques, and those housing owners. But on the flip side of that, they know that they also hold quite a bit of power, and they also do plenty influencing of their own. So they will influence business leaders as to how they're going to provide support. They will get certain members of those cliques involved and on board before trying to make their move. And then, as I previously stated, they are pushing to try to get those housing owners to set better regulations in place to try to control that population. The administration understands those boundaries that the community has put up they understand that they're a very traditional culture and that they are very resistant to change. So there is a lot of behind the scenes negotiations that will actually go on prior to discussions being held out in public, just to ensure the understanding and the purpose is very clear before that decision is then made in public. Unfortunately, a lot of times this is viewed in a somewhat negative manner because so much is going on behind the scenes that it can sometimes seem questionable. But I think our administration, our Board of Education, understands the community's resistance and just wants to ensure that we have that support prior to presenting it to the community. So measuring public opinion is something that we have greatly struggled with. However, the KISA process has kind of forced us into that. So this past year when we gathered the public opinion, we actually received more unfavorable than we had assumed that we would get back. I think a lot of that was from a lack of communication. First of all, just in the opinion gathering process, but also a lack of communication in the recent past. And then inconsistency, whether that be within a building or as a district as a whole, there's been a lot of inconsistency in addition to just amongst grade levels and teachers' preferences. There's also been some changeover in administration in the last couple of years, which has unfortunately created some gaps. I feel like we're now closing those gaps, but there was a great deal of change that occurred in the last couple of years. And when we're looking at those public opinion surveys, one of our biggest faults, I believe, is the limited means by which we presented those surveys. We offered those online only. And as we have a growing population that is impoverished and Hispanic, as well as a large retiring population, we need to offer other means for individuals to participate in these surveys and share their thoughts and opinions with us. There was also a great deal of lack of response from individuals who are frequently our volunteers. They're involved. Feel like they would have been very positive responses. I think they just thought we knew how they felt, and so they didn't feel the need to participate in the surveys. So now we're going back and we're educating all of our stakeholders on the need for everyone to participate, not just those with concerns or complaints. And we also found personal interviews to obviously be the most beneficial. It gives us the opportunity to ensure that we're representing all populations adequately, and then it also gave us the opportunity to lean into some of the questions. And when they would give an answer and we weren't completely clear on what they were stating, we could then follow up with that question. Whereas if it was a written response from an online form, we were trying to read between the lines, which then could be somewhat difficult. I feel like this is really my personal weakness, just because someone's still fairly new to the district. I am an outsider, so there's still some hesitation. I would dare to say even some trust issues. With someone new coming in, there's change that comes with it, and change is very uncomfortable for this community. So we are still a little hesitant to just jump right in. I'm looking forward to hearing what others are doing to be a little more successful with this, and learning more and improving what I'm doing. So thank you.